Wednesdays are for people's elbows, super kicks, and springboard cutters. You know what that means. It's the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast hosted by Michael Davis on Boom Broadcasting, and it's time to pick up that mic. Welcome to the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast, and it is time for the Elimination Chamber. And joining me is the face behind Talking Suplexes. If you aren't following him on Instagram, you are missing out on quite a bit. And we've missed out on a couple years together. It's been a while since I've had you on the podcast, but glad we were able to work it out. B, how are you doing? Are you excited for this Saturday's Elimination Chamber?
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me again. It has been a while. Glad we could kind of coordinate this. You know, life be life sometimes. But if I'm being honest, I'm just kind of indifferent about Elimination Chamber this weekend.
Wow. Okay. Why would you say you're indifferent?
Really nothing. From what I remember, because I've, kind of like a week behind on things. Nothing's really been popping out at me that like, okay, this is going to be a good card. This is going to be a good match, etc.
Yeah, and the card does look a little weak, and that has drawn a lot of criticism. Obviously, there is CM Punk versus Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight title. Are you really going to mess up the Punk Reigns match? You have AJ Lee competing on the same card, but then you have the women's and men's Elimination Chamber matches. And I'll be honest, I feel a little bit of the same. A lot of it seems predictable, but the Elimination Chamber is such a historic premium live event. We can't call it a pay-per-view anymore, but it started way back when as just a match, just as a concept. And we're going to go through on this episode talking about some of the historic Elimination Chamber matches throughout the history. But want to do a little bit of a dive because, B, I have a hot take. And it may not be hot. I don't know. It may not be out of pocket. But I remember the Elimination Chamber being debuted back at SummerSlam 2002. And we're going to talk about that match here a little later on. But it was vicious. It was brutal. And wrestlers who competed in that inaugural match was, very open like, hey, this was a brutal match to compete in. And obviously that was in the TV-14 era, a lot more blood, a lot more violence. And then there was a transition that happened in 2008 where the product became PG. And we still had the same Elimination Chamber, just a little less emphasis on the brutality. And now that we're way into the PG era of almost 18 years, that PGA era has had a kid of its own. It feels way too PG now. Like, I don't go into the Elimination Chamber saying, oh, man, this is going to be a fight. This is going to be vicious. It's going to be brutal. It's just like it's another Eliminator match where you can use the chamber as an environment, but it's not going to shorten careers like was advertised many years ago. Is the Elimination Chamber just too PG now?
I would say yes. To your point, if you hear the Elimination Chamber, you look at the cage, the whole concept, you're thinking some bones are going to get broken, blood, not necessarily blood everywhere because, AEW goes a little overboard with the blood, so I can kind of understand WWE not wanting a whole lot of blood, but at the same time, when you bill a match as like a potentially career-threatening match for the participants, people go in with a certain mindset of we're going to see some real like action, brutality, people getting carried out after the match, things like that, and we just don't get that anymore. And it's definitely watered down the branding of the Elimination Chamber to where I personally don't feel it's really needed that much anymore.
Wow. I mean, hey, I don't think you're wrong. Obviously, like the Elimination Chamber has grown into its own premium live event, and it's gotten to be a destination on the road to WrestleMania. But dude, ever since they even remodeled it, like it doesn't even look like a chamber anymore. It just looks like another cage. I mean,
Right.
at this point, let's bring back the 6-pack Armageddon Hell in a Cell match, because this is basically what it
That
is.
is, yeah. I also think that's, how do I want to word this? It's the Elimination Chamber suffers from the WWE doing too much with the whole PLE building around a particular match. So, the Royal Rumble is a legacy event. Everybody expects that. Everybody loves Royal Rumble. I personally like the Money in the Bank concept. Should they really built the whole PLE around it? That's debatable. Same with the Hell in the Cell. I don't really think a whole event needs to be built around that. Same for Elimination Chamber. It really needs to be a match that is put together for a reason and not because it's that time of year.
Mm. And that's a good point, because it really has. Like, you would have SummerSlam 2002. You had 6 guys, and all 6 of these were vying for a world heavyweight title. Shawn Michaels, Kane, Booker T, Chris Jericho, Rob Van Dam. I mean, you just look at that list and you have 5 Hall of Famers. And I haven't even mentioned the incumbent world heavyweight champion, Triple H. Like, Eric Bischoff's idea was, what am I going to do with these 6 guys? Okay. It's, a year later at SummerSlam 2003, where, same concept. You add in Randy Orton, a young guy, Kevin Nash and Goldberg, 2 established WCW guys. And then it's not back until New Year's Revolution 2005 and 2006. And then you have your ECW December to Dismember in 2006. And we'll talk about some of these, but there seemed to be a reason. And once you attached a premium live event, it's like, okay, how are we going to find 6 guys to compete in this match? And so that really does bring up the point. Should it be a concept where, hey, it might be mid-October and we have 6 guys who could all compete for the title? Or does it fit as a last chance on the road to WrestleMania? And if you were to get rid of this concept, what would you replace it with? Like, would you even have a premium live event between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania?
I personally don't think they should, just because WrestleMania is the Super Bowl of pro wrestling, and it deserves to be stretched out to have time to tell these stories between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. And Elimination, well, not even just Elimination Chamber, but that middle pay-per-view between the 2 events always kind of throws things off to a point, because it's like they really don't know. Sometimes it seems like they don't know the road they're driving down to get to WrestleMania, if that makes sense. So they make a pit stop at Elimination Chamber to try to figure it out.
I could not have said it any better myself, because I mean, hey, don't even give us Fastlane. Like,
Yeah.
that was some laughable stuff. Anyone who, Fastlane was almost as laughable. But it's even weird, because we talked about some of those like key matchups. Is the Elimination Chamber was so dangerous because a champion would have to walk in there against 5 other guys and try to walk out still as world champion. And it didn't happen very often at the beginning. Shawn Michaels win against Triple H in the inaugural one. It just wasn't happening usually. Even in 2006, when John Cena escaped the Elimination Chamber, immediately gets cashed in with Edge. There's an interesting stat that I came across when studying for this podcast, that the World Championship, either the WWE or the World Heavyweight, has not been defended inside the Elimination Chamber since 2022, and that was when Brock Lesnar defended the WWE Championship inside successfully before going on to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 38. Now, if you ask me, I would not expect Triple H to completely take out contending for the world championship inside Elimination Chamber, especially since for many of the inaugural years, Triple H was doing just that. Do you feel like this would mean more if, let's say, Drew McIntyre was defending his WWE championship inside the Elimination Chamber rather than, oh, this is just a shot to face Drew? Because I feel like once you get to that point, you're like, oh, it's almost obvious who's going to win.
I do think putting a championship on the line would increase the stakes, make it a little bit more interesting storyline wise, make people more invested. But to your point that you mentioned a little earlier, the other thing that's missing too with that is all the combatants that's in the ring. You don't get the feeling that they hate each other, like you did at SummerSlam 2002. You know, you knew Triple H and Shawn Michaels hated each other because Triple H turned on Shawn Michaels. All the participants this year, can you really say like they're going out for blood when they're in the can't talk tonight. The Elimination Chamber.
I mean, really not, because you got like Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, and Randy is like, that's my buddy, but I'd hit him with an RKO if it meant like win the world title.
Right.
It just doesn't hit as well, especially the way that WWE's done it in the build-up. I mean, you don't even have Jacob Fatu in there, and Jacob and Cody have beef, or Sami Zayn and Sami's starting to have beef with Cody. It's just, let's get Trick Williams in there. And as big of a fan of Javon Evans as I am, and he's going to do tremendous in that match, he's probably going to jump off one of the pods, get hit with an RKO, and that's how he gets eliminated. There's no bad blood when it comes to Javon Evans and any of these guys. Same with Trick Williams. Same with LA Knight. And it's like, okay, well, you should have shown up for the Royal Rumble and actually won that versus, this last-ditch effort. But I would love, like, this would solidify Drew McIntyre's WWE Championship if he was to beat Cody, and the way he did that with Jacob Fatu coming in and Drew like escaping the cage at the very last second while Cody was, distracted with other things. I mean, to establish Drew going into WrestleMania, it would have been much better for Drew to defend inside the Elimination Chamber against Cody and Jacob Fatu and Sami Zayn and Randy Orton. And then you could have thrown in like a Javon Evans or a Trick Williams or somebody you wanted to get a rub. But that's not what happened, and we're stuck reliving the past. And I want to do a trip down memory lane with these Elimination Chambers. So we mentioned the first ever, and I do want to fact check myself. I know I said SummerSlam 2002. This was Survivor Series 2002. I had a little bit of a blunder there. But as we mentioned,
I'm trying to remember. When Triple H turned on Shawn Michaels, was that after SummerSlam that year?
It was right before SummerSlam, and then we got Triple H, Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam, and Shawn Michaels won. That was his first match back from the back injury, and then afterwards, Triple H maliciously put a sledgehammer in his best friend's back and put him on the shelf for a while. And then it was a little bit longer after that Shawn Michaels would return, compete in the first ever Elimination Chamber match. And as I mentioned, that whole Elimination Chamber was stacked, and it would result in Shawn Michaels winning the World Heavyweight Championship. And to note, this was Shawn's one and only World Championship run after his return in 2002. There were rumors that Shawn Michaels didn't want the world title on him, and there's a big saying going around that, the title doesn't make the man makes the title, and Shawn didn't want that. He wanted to be the showstopper, the headliner, Mr. WrestleMania. And he did just that.
Greatest of all time. Don't forget to throw that in.
You would throw Shawn as the GOAT?
Yes, I would. We can have another conversation about that on another episode.
Oh, but with Shawn Michaels win the world title, I want to ask, like, was this a good move? Like in hindsight, obviously you think Shawn's the GOAT. To put the World Heavyweight Championship on Shawn Michaels in the Elimination Chamber, or would it have been just as memorable if it was Shawn versus Triple H and then introduce the Chamber concept at another time?
I think if it was just Shawn and Triple H, and the Elimination Chamber got introduced at a later time, it still would have been memorable because you had that best friends turning on each other storyline to go off of, and the redemption story with Shawn Michaels coming back from the back injury, and it's either way, people were going to love it, and it was going to be memorable.
Yeah, and honestly, be like that match, I can go back and watch on repeat, and especially with these earlier here in the last couple of years. I don't know if I would go out of my way to watch, the 2024 men's or women's Elimination Chamber match. I can't even tell you who won off the top of my head or who was in that match, but that first one, so memorable.
Right. Now I got to look it up who won in 2024. I don't even remember who won last year.
Exactly.
I'm sitting here.
Actually, we will get to last year's, because last year's actually was a memorable Elimination Chamber, and you'll understand when I bring it up. But Shawn Michaels win the inaugural one over RVD, Jericho, Booker T, Kane, and of course Triple H losing his title in that. The next year was SummerSlam 2003, and that's where I keep getting confused between the four main pay-per-views. But Triple H would actually enter as world champion. Shawn Michaels would enter as a challenger along with Jericho, Orton, Kevin Nash, and Goldberg. And Triple H would actually retain, continuing his reign of terror after he beat Booker T at that year's WrestleMania. Triple H would hold on to the world title going into WrestleMania 20 against Chris Benoit and, again, Shawn Michaels. I mean, even with the Elimination Chamber having Shawn Michaels and Triple H and four other guys, like, we got some legs out of that Triple H and Shawn Michaels rivalry.
We did. Yes, we did.
But one of the feuds that actually was sparked by the Elimination Chamber was New Year's Revolution 2006. Shawn Michaels, again, in this Elimination Chamber. For somebody with a bad back B, I don't know if Shawn should have been competing in his main Elimination Chambers as he was.
That's another reason he's the GOAT.
But Shawn would enter this Elimination Chamber alongside Kurt Angle, Kane, Carlito, and Chris Masters. And when we talk about what the Elimination Chamber used to be, John Cena was a bloody mess after winning and retaining the WWE Championship in this Elimination Chamber. New Year's Revolution 2006. Painting a picture B, my first ever WrestleMania I got to watch on TV live was WrestleMania 21. This is when John Cena beat JBL for his first ever, one of soon to be 17 world championships. But that same night, Edge won the inaugural Money in the Bank ladder match. Before that was turned into its own premium live event as well. And then we got Mr. McMahon coming out saying, raise the chamber. This night is not over. Introducing the whole Money in the Bank concept. Edge comes in, cashes in on a vulnerable John Cena, and actually walks away as WWE champion. Now, everybody's asking, why are you giving us a history lesson, Michael? Everybody knows that. But when we're talking about the Elimination Chamber growing over 20 plus years, Money in the Bank also growing over 20 plus years, and now to see both of them have premium live events, weekends dedicated to that particular match and having major storylines wrapped around it. B, you could look back at New Year's Revolution 2006 and say that night changed the trajectory for the entire business.
Absolutely. It was a career-defining moment for Edge, because it led him to become, the R-rated superstar, and one of the best heel runs in the history of the business. When you look back at it, uh, it made Money in the Bank the whole concept people brought into it that night when they finally got an idea of how it works. And the Elimination Chamber, brutal match that people wanted to see. We could have did without Carlito and Chris Masters, but
What?
yeah,
Bruh.
that's another story for another day. I mean, I like Carlito as a talent, but when you look back, like, did he really belong in the Elimination Chamber at the time?
Mm.
Chris Masters, I'm very like, I can take or leave him. He definitely did not belong in there.
Well, and here's, I think, what WWE's struggling with this upcoming weekend with Javon Evans and Trick Williams. It's like, hey, we have all these established guys, but let's throw in a couple younger guys to see, can they hang? Can they make a name for themselves, even in a losing effort? And Carlito and Masters, I believe, were the last two eliminated in that Elimination Chamber match. Surprisingly, like you would think it'd be Michaels or Kane or even Kurt Angle, but it was Masters and Carlito, the final ones eliminated. But, dude, I hope you have a handkerchief handy, because you know who spits in the face of people who don't want to be cool.
Oh, yeah. Carlito, so you're a big Carlito fan?
I've met Carlito. He's super, he's cool.
Okay.
A little pun intended.
Gotcha.
But with that night, you mentioned like what Money in the Bank came to be. Not many people remember this was before Edge was the rated R superstar, and all that would go into 2006. Do you think Edge, as I'm a huge Edge fan, but do you think Edge is as big as he was if he didn't cash in at that moment?
No.
Mm.
Nah. He needed a title at the time to become John Cena's Joker, for lack of a better comparison. And the title solidified him to really be that prickly character. Like, I'm the man. I have this championship. I'm going to win it by any means necessary. Do what I have to do to keep it in my possession.
You bring up a good point there. And just thinking of like what we got from 2006 with Edge and John Cena. I mean, we had both of them winning in the other person's hometowns for pay-per-views, and they were called pay-per-views back then. But we never got Edge versus John Cena one-on-one at a WrestleMania. And B, even after this cash-in, I feel like they missed out on that chance. Like, we did get John Cena and Triple H that year. We did get John Cena and your GOAT, Shawn Michaels, the following year, but we didn't get John Cena Edge. Do you think they missed the boat there?
They absolutely did. I'm trying to think. 2006, Edge fought Mick Foley at that WrestleMania.
Which was a huge career-defining moment for Mick Foley.
It was. Everybody, Mick Foley was retired, maybe about 5-6 years at that point. And him still be able to take that spear through the flaming table is an iconic WrestleMania moment. 2007, who did Edge face at WrestleMania?
I believe Edge was back in the Money in the Bank ladder match, the one that Mr. Kennedy won.
Okay. And then 2008, it's going to kill me because I remember Edge coming out of that.
I believe Edge 2008 was WrestleMania 24. I believe that was the year that Edge main event against The Undertaker for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Maybe, because that was a year HBK retired Ric Flair.
Ric Flair.
So it probably was Edge and Undertaker. So yeah, they missed a boat in that 3 year span, not having the two wrestle at WrestleMania.
Yeah. Do you feel like that hinders that rivalry a little bit because John Cena versus Edge not having that WrestleMania like an Austin or a Rock would?
Not necessarily. I think people, especially for folks that was still the tail end of the ruthless aggression era into the PG era. I think for folks who were growing up in wrestling at that time, um, that's still like the feud that they hold every other feud around that time too, if that makes sense. Like, you like you said, Rock Austin, everybody knows that feud. HBK Bret Hart, everybody knows that feud. For those mid 2000s, everybody knows Edge and John Cena were heated rivals. So I don't think it takes away from the history of that rivalry that it did. They never had a match at WrestleMania.
And I will say, like, they did have like a triple threat, with the Big Show, but that was
Yeah,
nowhere close to the peak of their feud, and Big Show had no business being in a
yeah.
Edge versus John. As much as I like Big Show, just wasn't his place.
I do kind of feel like if maybe they had, let's say, 2007, we took Edge out of the Money in the Bank, and they had like a cage match against each other at WrestleMania, or maybe you don't want to repeat history too much, but maybe like their own Iron Man match at WrestleMania definitely may put them in the conversation of all time feuds, like
Mm.
GOAT feuds.
Mm. And see, all of that stemmed from the Elimination Chamber moment. And not only building up the Elimination Chamber, but also Money in the Bank. But there took a shot to the Elimination Chamber back in 2006, December 3rd, ECW's December to Dismember, historically known as one of the worst pay-per-views of all time. B, I want you to speak into that. Is it one of the worst pay-per-views of all time?
I would say yes because I really don't remember much about it.
Uh, and the only thing I remember is there was an extreme Elimination Chamber match. Bobby Lashley would win, and Rob Van Dam, Hardcore Holly, very young CM Punk, Test, as well as the champion, The Big Show, would be in this match. And this was also after like Big Show had won the ECW championship. RVD got suspended, so they had to get the title off RVD after his big win over John Cena earlier that summer to catapult the ECW brand. But despite how bad that pay-per-view was, despite how honestly not memorable the actual extreme Elimination Chamber match was,
Did
it
they have
felt
weapons hanging from the cage? If I'm remembering right.
yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So B, it kind of felt like maybe they were trying to create like their own version of like war games with the Elimination Chamber, and it it I don't know if it would have been a fine idea, but it just didn't hit. Do you feel like if WWE tried it outside of the ECW December to Dismember, could we have seen the Elimination Chamber evolve to have weapons inside?
Um, I just kind of think where they were going as a company at the time, it probably would not have been a permanent thing, but it wouldn't have hurt to have it a little bit more often. Like I said earlier, just to sell that idea that like everybody in this match has some type of real issue with one another, and they just want to
Mm.
beat the brakes out of each other with whatever they can.
And do you feel like if they had a different set of six people in that match? I mean, you talk to me about like some of the ECW originals. You obviously had RVD in there, but Sabu, like bring him back. If you're bringing RVD back, bring Sabu
He,
back.
I feel like he was in the relaunched ECW, but I feel like something happened and he got in some trouble or something, and and that
Yeah,
may be why he wasn't in the match.
and see that's my question is like he got in trouble with RVD. They were in the same car. Like
Yeah, but
how
RED was a bigger star, so they kind of like gave him a slap on the wrist. They kind
mm,
of needed RVD to legitimize their version of ECW, if you ask me.
mhm.
So he got the slap on the wrist. Sabu got a harsher punishment because they probably felt like we don't need him as much to help the brand relaunch.
Man, and if you're going to give RVD a slap on the wrist, I feel like WWE could have been telling a different story about that pay-per-view and about the Elimination Chamber uh, 20 years later. Because again,
Yeah.
probably missed the boat with, I mean, no offense, and God rest his soul, but Test, really?
I mean, if I remember correctly, they were trying to make him like a big deal on the ECW brand, and I think they definitely were trying to make Lashley a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think did Lashley win that year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, because he went on to win the ECW World Title. Was it that
Yep.
same year?
Yep, he won the
Okay,
ECW championship that night in the Elimination Chamber, and
all right,
then
that's
held it for WrestleMania that year to face Umaga and the Battle of the
the Billionaires.
Billionaires,
Yep. Okay.
uh, and then eventually drop it to Durag Vince, of all people.
Oh yeah, yeah, that did happen.
Now, if you think about back through this Elimination Chamber history of like what matches happened, there were two Elimination Chamber matches starting in 2008. You had two different Elimination Chamber matches. The Undertaker winning one of those, Triple H win the other, and that kind of helped them get into a prominent spot in WrestleMania. But the following year, No Way Out 2009, No Way Out basically became Elimination Chamber pay per view without calling it the Elimination Chamber pay per view. But one of the more historic moments was Edge walked in, opening match, WWE champion, loses. Triple H becomes new WWE champion. Later that night, Edge helps insert himself into the World Heavyweight Championship Elimination Chamber match and walks out World Heavyweight Champion. Now, B, we talked a few minutes ago about Edge really solidifying himself at New Year's Revolution 2006 by cashing in on John Cena. But do you think that moment was bigger for his career? Or do you think this moment was bigger with him competing in two Elimination Chamber matches and walking out with a different world title?
I still feel like his cashing in
Mm.
was a bigger deal, and the reason I say that, I completely forgot about him competing in two matches until you brought it up.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Also, to be fair, 2009, I was watching wrestling, but
Mm-hmm.
I think I was kind of in like that period where I kind of got an idea what's going on, but I don't have a full pulse on like keeping up with it on a regular. So that's kind of like, yeah, I don't remember that at all.
You know what I call that though?
What?
The PG brain.
Okay. Yeah.
It's called the PG brain. There was a lull, 2009, 2013. There was a lull in wrestling where it's like you didn't have to watch every single Monday.
Right. Which not to go too off topic, but I kind of feel like it's how it is right now.
Ooh, okay, okay.
I don't have to watch every week. Sometimes I don't watch Raw or SmackDown. I'm just like, "Oh, I'll check I'll check online, see what happened. If something big enough happened, I'll watch. Which really quick, I always like to ask fellow wrestling fans, like, what were the periods where you're like, life's always evolving, so you're like, I was a wrestling fan, but I wasn't in depth with what was going on. Like, what were your periods?
So I really got into it watching weekly in 2005, obviously with WrestleMania 21, and dude, I feel like this is really going to make sense, to you because you brought it up and other people. Like, you had to watch live. We weren't in a let's record it and watch it, Tuesday or Wednesday. It was like you're watching it live on
Right.
Monday Raw. You're going to school and talking to your buddies on Tuesday morning about what happened. And that lasted until about 2009. And you're like, if you missed a Monday Night Raw, it wasn't like the end of the world. In 2010, 2011, 2012, I mean, I was still a wrestling fan and just all the things happening. But it was getting harder, to watch every single Monday. But I still tried. WWE Network in 2014 really helped. You had access to Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and then it was around, I want to say 2017, because personal life, I was working at summer camp,
Okay.
and you can't work at a summer camp and keep up with the product during the summer. So like I caught on online like the glimpse of Jinder Mahal winning the WWE Championship from Randy Orton. And then there are times where it's like, hey, there's nothing really happening after SummerSlam until the Royal Rumble. So
Right.
there were some gaps in there. But it's hard, like, especially now, because you don't have to like schedule time out of your day to watch Monday Night Raw or Friday Night
Right.
SmackDown or even AEW Dynamite. Now it's like, hey, let me just like pop up on Twitter and get
What happened?
spoilers.
Yeah. So I started watching wrestling 1996 when the NWO was getting big. That lasted till probably 2002. I was in high school, so somewhere between like 2002, 2004. I was watching it, but I wasn't as engaged. Uh, Kind of picked back up 2006, 2007. That probably lasted till, yeah, about 2009, 2010. And then probably I was really engaged from, I'll say, 2016 to, yeah, about the pandemic. And then from the pandemic till probably uh maybe 2024. Yeah.
Yeah, and that would check out WrestleMania 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would check out WrestleMania 40 with Cody and Roman.
And like we were mentioning before we hopped on, kids take a lot of your time where you can't really devote it to wrestling like that. But yeah, so there's always those ebb and flows of being a wrestling fan where you're kind of not too much in tune with it. So like that 2009 Edge participating in both matches was a blur.
And when I was doing research talking about blurs, I had to brush up on my Elimination Chamber history, because Edge, very iconic, No Way Out, 2009, starts as WWE champion, leaves as World Heavyweight Champion. Elimination Chamber becomes its own pay per view in 2010. Back in 2010, John Cena won the WWE Championship in Elimination Chamber. Sheamus was the incumbent champion with Kofi Kingston, Triple H again, Randy Orton, and Ted DiBiase Jr., of all people. What a throwback there.
Yeah.
Chris Jericho won the World Heavyweight Championship Elimination Chamber with R-Truth, CM Punk, Rey Mysterio, John Morrison, who was very underutilized back then, and the incumbent champion, The Undertaker. But, there were some like, there weren't really memorable chambers from 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014. And the only other thing to note is 2015, they started doing something a little different. At 2015, it wasn't for a world title. They did a tag team championship elimination chamber match where the New Day retained the titles against the Ascension, the Lucha Dragons, Cesaro and Tyson Kidd, Los Matadores, and the Primetime Players. And then,
That's the problem with Elimination Chamber.
I mean,
Like,
what?
other than New Day, and I think all those guys are very talented, but other than New Day, like any of those other teams deserve to be in there.
It just kind of like ruined the concept a little bit. And then later that night, still Elimination Chamber 2015, the Intercontinental Championship is there, and it's Ryback, winning winning the championship against Sheamus and Mark Henry and R-Truth and Dolph Ziggler and King Barrett. And no disrespect to any of those guys, but the Elimination Chamber wasn't built for
A mid-card.
mid-card. And then we had that same situation happen in 2023, another, dip in my viewership with the United States Championship and Austin Theory. Like, dude, it feels like rather than elevating the mid-card titles, it just degraded the Elimination Chamber entirely.
Oh yeah, it did. 'Cause it's like, what's the point? Like, who are these? Not who are these guys, but it's like I'm not invested in this mid card match in the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
Kind of the same problem they run into when they put mid carders in Hell in a Cell matches.
Okay, preach on that.
Yeah, it's like everybody knows for the big events to work, fans have to be invested. And a lot of times they don't give us a reason to be invested in the mid cards. It's just there to get us to the main stories, pretty much.
And I feel like that's what WWE is missing out on, because if you look back, the Intercontinental Championship with Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, like WrestleMania 10, that could have been centered around a world championship just because of how good those guys were. I mean, again, your GOAT, and the original bad guy.
Yeah.
Like that's what the Intercontinental title meant. And in 2004, 2005, it felt like the Intercontinental title was the people they didn't trust in the main event scene, like a Shelton Benjamin or a Carlito, like guys you didn't really trust to draw numbers. And then, I thought we were going to get out of it with SmackDown Live when Dolph Ziggler and The Miz, but again, two guys you didn't trust in the main event scene. And then in recent years, like Gunther was good. Like Gunther, when the Intercontinental title, you could tell they were actually going to invest in him. Jey Uso, can you really say like? I mean, it didn't feel like the Intercontinental title elevated him. It felt like it was just a placeholder until the fans were like, "Yeah, sell some T-shirts," and they're like, "Oh, maybe we can capitalize on it if we put the World Heavyweight title on him." And fans quickly were like, he's a tag team guy."
Yeah.
No offense.
He just shows a little bit more personality than his brother, but he's a tag team guy.
I know that wasn't really oozy of me, but I apologize.
You're just being honest, man. And I love the Usos, but it's just you got to be honest.
Hey, man, I'm going to a WWE show. I'm eating.
Right.
But you can't degrade some of these historic, and just like your example with the Hell in a Cell match, like Triple H, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, Edge, Randy Orton, like some of the all-time greats, Undertaker, Mankind.
Right.
And then you're putting in like who in the Hell in a Cell match? And same with the Elimination Chamber. I'm okay with, sometimes throwing in like a Carlito or a Chris Masters, see if they can hang, but don't center an entire pay-per-view, an entire Elimination Chamber on like, hey, these are our like second-rate stories. But this was also during a time where it was like, your world champions were part timers.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to be that strong of a story, and I feel like they could have elevated some people if they had a world title around it. But a couple years later, actually a year later after this pay per view, WWE would go back to a brand split. Monday Night Raw, SmackDown Live. You had Mick Foley and Stephanie McMahon over Raw. You had Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon over SmackDown. And SmackDown would have an exclusive pay per view for the Elimination Chamber in 2017. And John Cena walked in as WWE champion. This was his 16th WWE championship reign against AJ Styles. So this was AJ's first Elimination Chamber. Dean Ambrose, his first. Baron Corbin, a recent call up from NXT, his first. And The Miz. I can't remember if The Miz had competed in a Elimination Chamber before. I believe he did back in 2012. Again, one of those dip years.
Yeah.
But Bray Wyatt was in this match, and it was his first. And Bray actually won the WWE Championship, and was one of the younger WWE champions at the time. I'm a huge Bray Wyatt fan. In my old podcast studio setup, I had plaques, I had posters of him, and hopefully, one day very soon we'll get the podcast studio set back up. But this was big, because you were able to put the title on Bray. Randy Orton won the Royal Rumble that year, and with Bray Wyatt, like, this is what the Elimination Chamber, if you were going to elevate anybody, like, this is what it was meant to be, is like establish a guy, like, as a main event guy. And obviously, like, Bray left us way too soon.
Absolutely.
But this was, I'm not gonna lie, this was probably the last Elimination Chamber I was entirely invested in, because not only did I not see Bray winning, but I just didn't know who would win. With Cena, Styles, Ambrose, and then Bray shocked the world.
Right. The wild card effect. Yeah. You just don't know who. That's the other thing that's missing. Like, you look at the lineup, you're like, okay, it's definitely this person or it's one of these two people, but all four don't have a chance of winning.
Yeah.
Which
Like,
is sad.
Are you telling me like LA Knight has a chance to win? Like, everybody's putting the rocket on him, and maybe he wins like a Money in the Bank, or maybe he, gets a title opportunity later on this year at a premium live event. But come on, like, they're
Actually,
not
if
going.
LA Knight wins, I'm 100% behind him.
What? No.
I like him as a talent. I'm just really going off of Homer. He's a fellow Maryland guy, so you got my support there.
Okay. Hey, I met him. He's an incredible human being, and he's super nice. But I mean, come on, it's like,
Yeah, he doesn't really stand a chance.
You just don't. That's not the direction they're going.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, they could have went Randy Orton, John Cena. Like, that could have been a very real possibility. And honestly, like, it helped because Raw was always seen as the flagship show. SmackDown was the B show. So do you think like SmackDown that year, after the brand split, having that pay per view to themselves and being able to establish a guy like Bray Wyatt, did that like not only help his career but help like be like, oh, SmackDown's cool again, or maybe even for the first time ever?
Yeah, I really don't think so. I think I think kind of when they went with that whole each brand had their like own pay-per-view in the mid 2010s, even though it was on WWE Network, that was great. I think it became a point sometimes it was just too much.
Mm.
You think Raw was 3 hours, SmackDown wasn't 3 hours yet, but you still had SmackDown, you had NXT, then you drop us with these brand specific pay-per-views. And I think at that time both of them had like their own pay-per-views, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like each month. Yeah, I think it just became too much. So even Bray winning and people loving Bray, I don't think it really helped SmackDown Live.
Mm. I respectfully disagree. I did like the Bray and the Randy and We just didn't get good WrestleMania matches to pay off.
Yeah, that was 2017.
Hmm.
That's when like during the middle of the match, like they had the maggots projected on the ring canvas.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it
Yeah.
was.
I was actually there for that one. It
No
was a long
way.
yeah, it was a long night. Yeah.
It was. Dang. Oh wow, was that that was Roman and Undertaker in the main event, wasn't it?
Yes. Yep. Yep. It
That
just
was that was a long night for you.
it was a long night. They like the Flow Rider concert we could have did without in the middle of the event. I've been to 2011, the one in 2017, and one in 2018. And 17, 18 were definitely long nights.
Man, that's yeah, yeah. I would definitely do not envy you. 34 and 35.
No, I don't
Yikes.
think I was at 33 and 34.
33 and 34. Yeah,
35
because
was
New
New York, and
York.
that was I think that ended after 12.
I know with the Ronda Rousey triple threat match, but
Yeah, yeah.
uh, I have some content coming here in a few weeks, and we'll definitely hit up some of the misses of WrestleMania main events. And just spoiler alert, that's one of them.
All
Just
right. Looking forward to it.
just FYI. And then we fast forward because again, a lot of elimination chambers that weren't really noteworthy until last year. It's an elimination chamber match for the right to challenge Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. We had CM Punk, we had Seth Rollins, we had Drew McIntyre, we even had Damian Priest, who, in his own respect, was right off the heels of his World Heavyweight title run, and Logan Paul as well, which Logan Paul was the celeb effect. You need to get extra eyes on the product. But John Cena would win that one. John Cena had a couple moments where he's like, oh, this may be the shortcut, but hey, there's a shot at a world title. He didn't take the opportunity against Jey Uso in the Royal Rumble. And then, of course, we have a long segment afterwards featuring Cody Rhodes, The Rock, Travis Scott, and this is the night that John Cena turned heel. We could probably do a full hour just on John Cena's heel turn. Was it the right moment? Did they capitalize on it after the year? Like so many other podcasts have covered this, but what I wanted it to be was, did Cena's heel turn elevate the entire concept of the Elimination Chamber on the road to WrestleMania? Because we were going into this weekend still thinking it's a little predictable. Or would this heel turn have been just as impactful if it were to happen at the Royal Rumble? Or if it happened on a Monday Night Raw? Because if you remember, they moved to Netflix last year. If you get John Cena's heel turn on Monday Night Raw, man, I'm tuning into Netflix every week because I don't want to miss that stuff. Do you feel like it was the right move to have it at the Elimination Chamber as the final premium live event before Mania? Or could they have chosen a better window?
They could have chosen anywhere and it would have been a big deal because it's John Cena. It definitely overshadowed the Elimination Chamber because honestly, it makes sense that it was Elimination Chamber, but I honestly forgot the Elimination Chamber match itself happened prior to Cena turning heel. So it's like it just any way they would have done it, it would have been a big deal. But the fact that that moment is bigger than the match itself,
Mm.
to me, tells you a lot about where the match is these days.
Mm. Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that. That was yeah, that's a good point because we remember some of these big moments, but it was, yeah, it kind of overshadowed everything else, when it came to the match.
But it may have helped, but you know why they don't do it because for cameras and presentation and stuff. But if the elimination chamber cage had never got raised, and like the heel turn and all that happened within the confines of the Elimination Chamber, and like they were beating Cody until like they could, referees and backstage agents actually got the cage door open. That might have made it a bigger deal, honestly, looking back at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you think about it, it adds that extra visual effect of John Cena being, trapping Cody Rhodes in the chamber. And, we just went through, some of the lists of like John Cena hasn't had really memorable stuff. New Year's Revolution 2006, at that time, 19 years after the fact, like John Cena's the golden boy. He's with the current golden boy. Let's turn heel and let's take our opportunity, just like Edge did 20 years prior to Cena. Let's take this opportunity to book my ticket to WrestleMania and establish myself as a heel. You know what? Yeah, they should have left the Elimination Chamber for that visual effect. It would have made much more an impact.
Yeah, missed opportunity, guys.
Mm. And so that brings us to this weekend's Elimination Chamber. And we'll go rapid fire picks here in a minute. But guys, if you have not followed Talking Suplexes on Instagram, what are you doing? You should definitely follow Talking Suplexes on Instagram. Not only does he do that, but he also does a blog. If you haven't read his pieces, he's a wrestling historian. And, just all the stuff that, even with the ebbs and flows of, I watched wrestling for this period, got out of it this period. I'm amazed at some of the names and, matches you bring up. And so he does like Thursday Throwdown. Like he does all this stuff, and I can't wait for the Sunday Scuffle. And
Appreciate
but,
it.
But B, it's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's Wednesday War. And I see all these polls you post. Now, what I ain't telling them I was doing this, guys, but you have all these polls. I never understand what your answer is. So
Okay.
I actually have 6 matchups here for you. And these are all involving one of the competitors from this weekend's Elimination Chamber matches. And you're going to have to tell me, who would you pick if you were on your own Instagram and had to press the button? Okay.
Right. Okay, let's go.
One of the comparisons that I've been a lot for is Javon Evans, who's about to compete his first ever Elimination Chamber match. So Javon Evans versus Kofi Kingston.
Gotta
See,
go with the veteran, Kofi.
Oh, see, that reaction is how I feel like on about 60% of, nah, that's low. Probably about 80% of the, stuff you put out. I'm like, why Kofi?
Veteran presence. I think he would, especially like heel Kofi, he's definitely going to find a way to get the upper hand on Javon. Like Javon probably would he's definitely going to do some high flying moves, which I love. And Kofi is going to find a way to like counter it. And use his veteran presence to like tire him out, like get him to wear himself down and just hit him with something, and game over.
Man, these North Carolina boys are about to come for your head, bro. But we'll switch it up. A women's match. Kiana James really impressed in the Royal Rumble, and it's earned her spot in the Elimination Chamber this Saturday. Kiana James versus Michelle McCool.
Oh, Kiana James.
What?
I am not a Michelle McCool fan.
Man, you got North Carolina coming after you, and now you got the Undertaker. You about to go 1-on-1.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah, I have all respect for pro wrestlers. I just don't really get the hype behind Michelle McCool. Like when they were late cool, she was fine. And it could just been the era she was in, honestly. That I'm just like, yeah, I don't get the hype behind her.
Mm.
Maybe if she was an active competitor now, my opinion might change, but I just don't really. I can take her or leave her.
Okay, so he's got Kofi and Kiana. What about Trick Williams, also in his first Elimination Chamber match, against the guy who honestly helped get him over in NXT, Booker T.
Oh, Booker.
Okay, we agree on that one. We
Okay.
agree on that one. Trick has a lot of charisma, but he's not on that level of Booker T
Yeah.
yet.
Give me. If you want to make it a little harder, like '98 Booker T, like doing his TV title run.
Mm,
He's a different. Watching it during that time, I didn't really appreciate like how good he was, especially coming from a tag team. Um, but that was something special looking back.
mm, absolutely. Tiffany Stratton against the other TS, Trish Stratus.
Ooh. I'm gonna go Trish. Like,
Okay. I was getting worried. I was getting worried.
yeah, Trish is her and Lita definitely helped elevate the women's division. And then when we're talking, top 10 wrestling crushes, Trish is definitely up there. So, you know, I'm gonna take Trish 9 times out of 10.
Well, be jealous because I got to meet Trish a couple months ago at WrestleCade,
Very nice. Or
and
she was
she was,
like, okay.
hey, dude, she was super nice. Like, her and Lita both were super nice, and yeah, was one of the highlights of the weekend. I've also met this guy at that same convention about 10 years ago, while he was Eli Drake. We got L.A. Knight, who's often criticized for his age, against Diamond Dallas Page, DDP.
Can't go hometown team on this. I gotta go DDP.
What?
I,
Dude,
I think
dude.
I think the age difference between us probably uh
I've always thought DDP was overrated.
really like
Yeah.
that. So you bring up a good point because DDP, when he really became a star, he was later in age. He was like late 30s.
Yeah.
But that whole like 97, 98 run was great. Like it's a reason when they brought Carl Malone and they got Jay Leno, they paired him with DDP.
Mm.
And it gets overlooked because of how bad WCW was at the time. But
Mm.
his Jersey Triad run, I don't want to call it top heels, but it was a very, very good heel run. And his feud against Raven, I still think is one of the most underrated feuds when we talk about feuds. So I understand where you're coming from when you say you're overrated, because like once we got past '98, he kind of like fell off, honestly. But I still got to go DDP over LA Knight.
Okay. I just feel like LA Knight has all the tools. And if,
He does.
man, athleticism over DDP, and just has the mic skills over DDP. I feel like if they were in the
Really?
same era, I feel like if they were in the same era, LA Knight like blows by them. But that may just be me.
Now I'm gonna have to go back and like just look at some of DDP promos. He definitely is not like when you're talking like all time promo guys. I don't think he's up there, but he wasn't a slouch when it came to promos.
Mm, okay.
And then you got me thinking. In ring, I'm still gonna go DDP, but if we were talking promos, yeah, I might have to change my mind.
I base it off the whole picture, but
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I get that.
Now,
Well, also DDP has a better finishing move.
Randy Orton does it better. Oh man. So I'm gonna, let that be the semi-main because we can't let LA Knight in the main event unless he's with five other guys, right?
Right.
But for your main event of this Wednesday War, B, and you guys can go have your own fun on his own Instagram, talking suplexes, and he does this, a lot on the weekends. We're going women. We're having the women main event, and we're doing Rhea Ripley
Okay.
versus Lita.
Ooh. Lita's athleticism against Rhea's brute strength. I'm gonna go Rhea.
Okay.
She would find a way to counter Lita's athleticism and, and take the W.
Okay. Okay. Um, hey, and you know what? Like Lita was a trendsetter. Like this women's evolution never happens without Lita. But Rhea Ripley has taken it to new heights, and I think is just already a bigger star than Lita.
Yeah,
Um,
ever was. Well, I don't
yeah,
want to say ever was, but yeah, she is a bigger star than Lita.
and the only reason I say that B is anytime you talk about ruthless aggression women, it's Trish and Lita. When you talk about the women today, it's Rhea Ripley. Like
Yeah,
they're going to see Rhea.
you know, I'm gonna have to come back when you're talking about ruthless aggression women. Mickey James and Victoria always get left out, but they're a very important part of their era. So, if you will have me, we can come back and talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, you were welcome back anytime, and love talking suplexes with you.
Appreciate it.
Um, but yeah, yeah. And you know what? Kudos Victoria. She's actually in the new WWE 2K26 video game. Was announced as a playable character. So shout out to her. But rapid picks for the Elimination Chamber this weekend. CM Punk, Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight Championship. I I got Punk. It feels like a done deal.
Personally, I would like to see Balor, but Punk's gonna win it.
Okay.
Like,
Uh, yeah. Do you,
there's
do
no
you th-
denying that.
no denying that? But do you think his wife wins the Women's Intercontinental Championship against Becky Lynch?
Nah, Becky takes it.
Okay. I this is the flip for me. I feel like AJ Lee would have a very short run with the Intercontinental title and be able to carry that into WrestleMania and actually have a match for the women's Intercontinental title. That's where we see a little different. Women's Elimination Chamber match gets a world title opportunity. It looks like Liv Morgan and Stephanie Vaquer. So it looks like that the winner of this match will likely challenge Jade Cargill for the WWE Women's Championship. Who do you think Jade Cargill's opponent is?
Crap. Who's in the match again?
Off the top of my head, I can remember Asuka, Kiana James, Rhea Ripley, Tiffany Stratton, and Alexa Bliss.
It's gonna come down to Tiffany Stratton and Rhea Ripley. I feel like they're gonna throw us a curveball, and it will be Tiffany.
Mm,
I think the Rhea Liv Morgan's played out.
hmm
I think Rhea and Stephanie. Damn, actually, that has very good potential. I just don't know if they want to pull the trigger on that right now.
Yeah. And I feel like they're leaning towards Stephanie and, Liv potentially, from the promos. I feel like it dropped the ball if they, but, there's nothing official yet. Whoever has this will need to get a good match out of Jade Cargill. Give me, it's tough because Rhea's still in the women's tag scene. Give me Asuka. I think Asuka. I think Asuka could get a good match out of Jade Cargill, and wouldn't need a lot of storyline behind it. The men's chamber match: Jey Uso, Trick Williams, Javon Evans, Cody Rhodes, LA Knight, and Randy Orton. Winner getting a title opportunity against Drew McIntyre.
Cody.
Yeah, pretty much. That's why we call it rapid. This is so predictable.
Yeah.
Why are we even doing this? That's why we spent an hour talking about the history of the Elimination Chamber, about 5 minutes going through the talking suplexes, about 3 minutes talking about our wrestling dips, and then like 2 minutes talking about the obvious winners. Really, the Women's Chamber is the only one where it's like, I don't really know.
Yeah. And that might be the match of the night, honestly.
Could very well be, my friend. Could very well be. I again, if you are not following B on Talking Suplexes, now you have a face to the historic Instagram. You guys check that out. Check us back here next Wednesday on Boom Broadcasting. If you haven't already subscribed, we're doing a lot of content. Three from Deep, Dugout Debrief, Quick Hits, It Stinks, WOD, and I'm probably forgetting, three of our other shows because we're doing a lot here. Shout out to the whole team. Shout out to Cody behind the scenes. But guys, it's Wednesday. We got to get out of here. Thank you so much for joining me and B on Drop the Mic. And we will see you guys back here next week with knowing who won the Elimination Chamber. We'll see you back here next week.
See ya.
Yep.